What's going on, Dolphin fans? It is your boy Dillon, and so I'm here with you today because I want to give you first of all, I want to give you some updates, some injury updates with the Cowboys. Obviously, when I make my video tomorrow, my preview video for the game, I'm going to give you the injury report and stuff, but I want to give you some of that information now, so I'm going to do that. I also want to update you on the Taco Charlton situation, why the Cowboys got rid of him, what were his, stats and so on and so forth for additional context, and talk about a couple different things as well. So first of all, it is official that Reshad Jones and Albert Wilson will officially be out for the game against the Cowboys. They will not be playing. The Cowboys have ruled out 6 players, which will amount to 7 of their inactives. So they'll have one more. But right now there's 6 players that are out due to injury. Will be wide receiver Tavon Austin with a concussion. That's a pretty big one. Defensive end Tyrone Crawford, wide receiver Michael Gallup, linebacker Luke Gifford, nose tackle Antoine Woods, and safety Xavier Woods, which is also another big name. Not really too sure it's gonna help too much. I'm pretty sure we're still gonna get our asses handed to us. The Cowboys have a really good offense, and they have a solid defense, even missing some of those guys. So, I think it's going to be really tough. That might help us out a little bit, but, I don't expect us to win this game, and, whatever. We'll see, and I'll get into my preview tomorrow of the Dolphins Cowboys game. So, we'll hold off on that for right now. But I did want to give you some of those updates. Real quick too, also, so I was thinking, it's interesting, I was thinking about the trade situation, right? That, after the first game, there were a few players that were, supposedly wanted to get traded out of town, and an interesting thought came to mind, right? Because obviously, there were people that didn't think that was even a real thing, and then come to find out Mika wants out, we traded him. Well, there was, from the reports I saw, there were up to 3 players that had, notified their agents that they wanted trades, and including at least one veteran, and that I don't think they were referring to Minka, since it's only his second year. And so it's interesting. The player though that comes to mind is Reshad Jones, and the reason why is because he's clearly had his issues with this organization now for a minute. He probably, he realizes he's older and stuff like that. He probably doesn't want to, and probably isn't going to be part of this rebuild anyway. So, he's like, just get me out of here now. I'm just speculating, but it came to mind. Plus, he has been, on the injury report. That's not to say he isn't actually injured, and there are reports that he's close to coming back. But, it's interesting. And, but part of it though is I was thinking about, well, and maybe he hasn't yet gotten traded because, he does come with a price tag, a pretty high price tag. He has some injury history. He's injured now. It's a foot thing, I guess, but he's had, surgery on both of his shoulders, I believe. And he's an older player now, so on and so forth. He's still really good and all that, but he is an older safety, in the box safety that's, pretty banged up at this point. So, with a pretty high price tag. So, for all that. So, I honestly don't think that really anybody would trade for him. I think that ultimately the most likely thing to happen is that they'll cut him. However, I have this weird sneaking suspicion, and I don't know why, but I have this weird sneaking suspicion that at some point, and it could be even during the season, that Reshad Jones just retires. And he's just like, fuck it. You know, fuck this nonsense, especially if we keep getting fucking, not only if we keep losing, but if we keep getting our asses just handed to us each game, then I could see that being a thing, because it's not likely that he gets a trade partner where the Dolphins would accept that, except, you know, what another team would be willing to give. Also, I think it is likely that they cut him at some point, but that probably won't be until, you know, the off season going into next year. So it would be a minute, and he would have to endure all this shit that we're going through right now. Plus, you know, he might kind of want to just do it on his own terms and not be cut, right? Maybe he wants to retire. Maybe he wants the official thing to be retire, not cut. I'm not saying he's even thinking about this. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know. But it was just an interesting thought that came into my mind, and how that could play out. Because unfortunately, I don't see Reshad Jones being part of this organization for the long term. And, you know, part of it has to do with the fact that he's older and he's, you know, got an injury history now. And that's not his fault. The Dolphins wasted his prime years, which, you know, I mean, we're getting pretty accustomed to at this point. You know, and I agree that for the past few decades and stuff, you know, we've been mediocre, blah, blah, blah. But I exclude the Adam Gase years. And I know a lot of people hate that and think I have some, like, love affair with him. No, I think Adam Gase actually was doing things the right way. And I think that there was the evidence and the proof to show it. And there was certainly, you know, him getting fired, especially at this point with what we know now, was for illegitimate reasons. You know, he was fired for a whole bunch of, you know, he got blamed for a whole bunch of things that he didn't have any kind of control over, and he had the integrity to tell Stephen Ross, and the integrity and the balls to tell Stephen Ross, yeah, no, I'm not tanking, dude. I'm not tanking. I'm not gonna intentionally, you know, make my team shitty, especially after 3 years. I have a good fucking, you know, I have a good roster here now. All I need is just, you know, another draft and to get my guys healthy, and then we're going to be competing. Why would I just fucking scrap all that just because you want me to go up and get a quarterback high in the draft? No, and that shows why Stephen Ross is incapable of making adequate, even adequate, not good or great, but just even adequate football decisions. And so anyway, and that's why he needs to go, and that's why you guys should sign my petition. The link will be in the description box for all of my videos. Anyway, so I just thought that to be really interesting. Okay, so anyway, moving on though. Real quick note, I thought this was fascinating. There was a tweet by Armando Salguero. Oh, God damn it. So there was a tweet from Armando Salguero, and it says, after being awarded defensive end Taco Charlton off waivers from Dallas today, so this was from yesterday, the Dolphins now have 6 former first-round picks in the organization. Well, you could have had some more. I mean, you could have had Minkah Fitzpatrick and Juwan James, right? They were former first-round picks. You could have had Laramie Tunsil, another former first-round pick. But you decided to let go or trade away Ryan Tannehill, right? Like, guaranteed for sure things. You know exactly what they are. You know exactly what you're going to get out of them. And they all perform at a good to great level. All of those guys. Tunsil, Juwan James, Ryan Tannehill, blah, 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 right? But look at the 6 first round picks they have right now. Josh Rosen, so he was picked 10th overall last season by the Arizona Cardinals. He had a pretty bad year overall, not all his fault, in large part because his offensive line was just garbage. He gets cut by his first team after 1 year. Then he comes to another team where his offensive line is garbage. They're going through this massive tank and so on and so forth. So he's not being helped out in any way, shape, or form coming here. And so far, what he has played hasn't been very good. I don't imagine it's going to get much better, considering the offensive line is still garbage. Christian Wilkins is the rookie we just got this year, so, I mean, you know, he hasn't done anything yet. He's completely fresh, still has to adjust to the NFL, and unfortunately, he came to a team that's all out, balls to the wall tanking, and so he's probably not going to end up having a good first year at the very least. His rookie year's essentially going to be wasted. Taco Charlton, well, we'll actually get more into him, but so far, now he's only halfway through his rookie contract, but so far he's trending a lot closer towards bust than anything. Then you have Charles Harris, who's also a lot closer to that. Because his rookie contract is almost over with now, and he hasn't, you know, done anything at all up to this time. Devontae Parker, I mean, I love the kid, I do, but you know, he's past his rookie contract. Remember, they actually extended him, right? They exercised his 5th-year option. Then he got an extension from this regime. The last regime did his 5th-year option, but then this regime decided to give him a 2-year extension. But he hasn't done shit, and he's been a bust up to this point. Robert Nkemdiche, another Arizona castaway that was, you know, said to you know, be overweight, and was certainly overweight by all reports coming into, and part of the reason why they got rid of him. He's apparently got a motor issue and a motivation issue, and doesn't like to which is actually one of the problems and reasons why Dallas got rid of Taco Charlton, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I mean, look, is it true that, you know, with all these former first round picks, they're all cheap and have some degree of upside? Yeah, but I mean, Devontae Parker is the biggest bust out of all of them so far, but Charles Harris, Taco Charlton, Josh Rosen, and Robert Nkemdiche are all far closer to busts. They're all at varying, you know, points in their you know, rookie contracts. Like, obviously Rosen's only in year 2, Taco Charlton's in year 3, right? But I mean, it's not good so far, and they're not being helped out either coming to this organization. So in this year, they're all gonna, you know, hopefully not, but they're probably all gonna have bad seasons this year, which isn't gonna help them or their evaluation and so on and so forth. So I mean, you know, just because, like, anybody that wants to just be like, oh yeah, we'll see, we got 6 former first round picks on the team, so look at all that talent. Yeah, but they haven't done shit. Their production is nowhere near, you know, at the level of where they got picked, is not worth their pick, right? Whereas, like, you know, that's why one of the disagreements I have with K Flexen is like, so I agree that if Minkah Fitzpatrick was saying, you know, I only want to play slot corner and that's it, blah, 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 then sure, you know, taking a slot corner in the first round, I agree, probably isn't really where you want to go, unless that's like the only position you really need on your entire team, because your team is that well, you know, put together, right? But he's not a slot corner. We drafted him as a free safety. That's what his skill set and his body frame is best suited for. That's one of the positions he played the most in college. And in college, he only played free safety, slot corner, and a little bit of boundary. He did not play strong safety or linebacker in college, which is what he was being told to do here under the Brian Flores regime. Anyway, and the Steelers are now going to be using him at free safety. Surprise! Of course! So anyway, so my point is that anybody that wants to be like, well, we got 6 former first round picks. Yeah, but they're all far closer to busts. Their, you know, prime years are being wasted, blah, 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 all those things. When you had proven commodities in Minkah Fitzpatrick, Laramie Tunsil, Ryan Tannehill, Jawan James, I mean, dude, so in comparison, you've gotten rid of all the good first round picks to hoard a bunch of failed first round picks. Well, that doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence in your talent evaluation abilities, and it doesn't, it doesn't give me any hope that next year, even half of the guys that are on the roster now are going to be here. Okay, so you can have a draft next year and hope that you get, and it have like 15 guys out of it because you have so many picks, and just hope that you get those dudes right. But if half your team is still completely new because, like all the guys you got now are not here, or half the guys you got now are not here, then you're still a super fresh team, and you still go into next year with a lot of the same issues and potential problems that you went into this year with. That's why it's a multi-year tank. Don't fool yourselves into thinking that this is only going to be a one-year tank. They have literally whittled this team down to nothingness so far that, anyway, so let me move on, because I do want to give you the rest of the context and information surrounding defensive end Taco Charlton. So I'm going to read this article. Jerry Jones has harsh criticism of Taco Charlton, explaining why Cowboys missed on former first round pick. So they think he's a complete miss at this point. Anyway, the Taco Charlton, let me just give you the data though, with the quotes and the stats and everything. The Taco Charlton era is over in Dallas as the Cowboys waived the 2017 first round pick earlier this week. Charlton found a new home Thursday with the Miami Dolphins, which coincidentally play the Cowboys Sunday. In the aftermath of the Charlton fallout is Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones admitted the team missed on Charlton, one of the rare misses the franchise has had in the first round this decade. Speaking on Charlton's tenure in Dallas on 105.3 The Fan, Jones had a harsh criticism regarding Charlton and why things didn't work out with the Cowboys. And he says this, quote, "I think we always got to realize on the motivation. We depend on motivation," Jones said via Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News. "The game does. The game's exciting because on something that's more than just talent. You got to be unique to even play in the NFL from a talent standpoint." So this plays to a larger narrative, and one of the things that I don't think that the Dolphins are getting right as well. And it goes into their talent evaluation and some of the things that they're banking on. They're banking on a bunch of like first and second round picks that they can get the top talent, right? But oftentimes it takes a lot more than just talent. It always takes a lot more than just talent, because every team in the NFL is even the lowly Dolphins right now are comprised of, the best of the best from the country, right? From college and so on and so forth, except for maybe the Dolphins, honestly, because they like literally intentionally put the worst players they could find on the field. Anyway, but so, anyway, let me just continue on. But still, it requires a really extended motivation. When you're on the defensive line, it asks more from you than the other positions in terms of being motivated, in terms of fighting through. Just the nature of the activity on the defensive line suggests fighting through. It's usually fighting through pain. It's usually fighting through really serious obstacles with all those big offensive linemen. And so you have to be eating raw meat to be a defensive lineman, in my mind. He doesn't mean literally like you got to eat raw meat. It's metaphorical what he's saying there, but he's saying that you got to have a grit that they don't think that Charlton has. Jones didn't stop there, questioning Charlton's motivation and how his frustration damaged his game from what Jones observed in practice. And he says, quote, "You get there a lot of different ways. Individuals do it a lot of different ways. For whatever the reason, that area of Taco, it has much to do with his own disappointment, his own feeling he can do better. I've seen him do a rep at practice, saw it this year in training camp, and when he didn't get there, he just wilted. It just looked like it impacted everything he was going to do for the rest of the practice. You say, well, I can correct that if you're a coach, or I can correct that if you're management. But on the other hand, you got to get it done. How it is done, how he deals with that can be in the future. Tom Landry used to say, don't ever give up on a defensive lineman for 3 years. So, and, you know, maybe a change of scenery helps him. I don't imagine coming to a dismal team that's tanking and stuff is going to help a guy like that get his motivation, because he's going to get his ass spanked. I mean, he might, you know, apparently he wants to play this game, but probably won't. But if he does, I mean, he's going to get his ass spanked with the rest of them, and it's going to be, you know, demotivating, demoralizing. So anyway, continuing on, Charlton's tenure with the Cowboys was a disaster from the start. Charlton battled injury issues and with attitude problems that led to him being benched in 2018 once he was finally healthy. In 27 games with the Cowboys, Charlton started 7 of them and had 46 tackles, 4 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. Not terrible for the time he's played, but certainly could be better, and the injury and motivation issues are pretty major red flags. Injury issues also plagued Charlton in the offseason, as he had 2 separate surgeries, one on his ankle and another on his shoulder. Charlton was also injured in the preseason and was inactive for the Cowboys in the first 2 games of the year. The lack of production and injuries had to get to Charlton, as he was not living up to his first-round billing, leading to frustration on the practice field. After being inactive the first 2 games, the Cowboys decided the experiment was over. Jones saw enough to justify moving on. So look, I mean, you know, look, I mean, everybody wants to try and like sit here and defend this. Okay, and I get it. You know, there is a realm of possibility that, you know, they made some sound decisions and some of these guys might stick around. I honestly, I think it's not unreasonable to think that the vast majority of this team right now, as it stands personnel wise, will not be part of this team next year. I think it is, you know, that one report I read to you said somewhere between 60 to 80% of this roster could be gone next year. That's insane. But I think that's accurate. And if that's the case, right? So, you know, you can hope that maybe, you know, some of these guys stick around and are worth building around. You know, you can hope that we don't trade more of our young ascending talent. You can hope that they just happen to get like every single one of these picks right in the next couple of drafts. But I mean, like, from my perspective, there's not a lot of data, information, or reason to believe that, you know, they're going to get any of it right. I mean, their talent evaluation seems to be pretty atrocious. The decisions they've made on and off the field seem to be pretty atrocious. And they're just having us, you know, they're trying to sell us that, you know, all we can really cling to is just some, you know, really fantastical hope that, you know, in a few years we might possibly be back to relevance if and only if, you know, this massive gamble that we've decided to undertake, which wasn't even really necessary from the beginning, and we're also simultaneously gonna lie about publicly, you know, this massive gamble that we're taking, if it happens to pay off, you know, then like, nah, man, that's too much. Not to mention, again, why should fans have to be subject to potentially the worst team in NFL history, which will never, ever, ever be cleared or cleaned off our record, because it can't be. You can't take that back. You know, why should we or the players have to deal with that? Because of this unnecessary, like, you know, atomic level implosion that this regime, starting with Stephen Ross, you know, has adopted. You know, no fan should accept that that the solution to our mediocrity is to be exceptionally bad, even for a short period of time. I mean, that goes against everything that it means to be a fan, everything that it means to be competitive. And that's why Minkah Fitzpatrick wanted out, because this is a disaster. He came from a proud organization of Alabama with a rich, you know, history of winning and excellence and so on and so forth. Yeah, and why would you want to trade that for this? Right? The Dolphins were a mediocre team trending in the right direction with the previous regime when they drafted him. And he was going to be a key, you know, and he had a good rookie season, even though he did get stretched a little thin having to play some corner out of necessity, right? But when he played in the slot and free safety, he excelled. And we were going in the right direction. And then all of this. It's massively disappointing. And anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, guys. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.